1 on the outside, yeah. And then equals
It's plus
r
yeah.
squared. Squared.
Good. So we're good?
Yeah.
So we're good? Oh, we can get that, all right. What was the ellipse?
Oh, that was
It was
the
a
same
fraction.
thing. Over,
Fraction.
over fraction, but basically that. And b.
A squared is squared. What is, oh, that's a 1.
Right?
Yeah.
Okay, and then we did discuss that the A can go over here or over here depending on what?
Where it's elongated.
Wherever it's elongated, right? So so everybody follow that? We're good so far? And then we learned yesterday parabola. What was the parabola equation? The other day.
That was 1 over 4p
Yeah.
times x minus h squared plus k.
Who's do these memorized?
Okay? And then remember, we can do the reverse of that, right? If you have the y, right? This is y equals, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so we're good so far. Everybody's tracking fine? All right, so hyperbola. So look carefully. These kind of relate, and the hyperbola and the ellipse are going to relate. I want to show you. So these have x squared, y squared, and then if you move this over, it's actually going to be over here, y minus k. So you're going to have very similar things there, okay? And remember, this has 2 of them, right? Because it's absolute value. This is absolute value, right?
Is that
Okay?
Q or
So you can get
A?
positive or negative.
Or
This-
Q?
This is A, sorry. I rewrote those. So, ellipse and a hyperbola are going to look similar. What's the difference?
Plus or minus.
Plus or minus? Plus or minus. The only difference is that they're plus or minus. So, when it was plus, what did it do? Let's think about it. When I had an ellipse, a plus, it did this, right?
Yeah.
When it's minus, what's it going to do? Or, does that make sense? It's going to either be this one or this one, or this one or this one. Does that make sense? How do we know if it's going this way or this way?
Depending where the X and the Y.
Awesome. Depending on where the X and the Y are. Which way it was elongated, right? Okay? Is that fair? And I'm going to explain that in a second. But that's the general thing of this whole equation.
And that's equal to 1.
This is the equation equal to 1. Yep. So your ellipse and your hyperbola are almost identical. The only difference is this minus sign and this plus sign. All right, any questions? How many focuses did you have here with your parabola?
1.
And what was the equation?
Equals like
H, depending on where it was, it would be H, what? K minus C, or minus A, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
minus A.
Or P, sorry, P.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's k plus p.
K plus P.
Yeah.
And the directrix was?
H.
Y
It's
equals
like
k
X.
minus
Well, technically
Y
it could be
minus-
minus or plus, just depending on where
Yep.
it is. It's just
It just depends on what it was, right? So
involvement.
basically that's what they look like, right?
Yeah.
How many focuses will you have here? 2. Why?
There's 2.
Because there's 2. And what do you think they're going to be from?
Thank you.
Does that make sense? Or from here?
Y is 0, 0.
Well, in this case, it's 0, 0, because I just put
Oh.
that's where. That's my HK.
Okay.
So whatever my HK
Oh,
is,
okay.
is that
You
fair?
need Both sides.
Yeah, so it's just going to go both sides from HK.
Kind of like
Your HK is going to be in here,
a point.
not here.
Why did you put a circle
Okay.
in the middle?
Because I think that's supposed to be.
Okay, the circle in the middle was just showing you what an ellipse was. And then I said, because when addition, it's going to circle together, right? And in subtraction, it's going to go one way or the other.
So it's not exactly like the vertex is going to be that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so we're going to go over that in just a second. Does everybody follow this? Everybody good so far? The general concept is, this is the general concept. So when you look at an equation, When you see an equation and it has a subtraction in the middle, it has this, then you know it's gonna be a hyperbola. That's how you know it's gonna be a hyperbola, okay? All right, any questions on that? All right, are we good so far?
Is there like a work form for the hyperbola, or is it
What
just the
happens
same
here?
as the?
The work form is this. This is work
Is
form.
it there?
Now, and then what's gonna happen is, how are we gonna know, how do you know if it's y or how do you know if it's gonna go over the y-axis or the x-axis?
Depends which one's bigger.
It depends on which one's bigger. And which is bigger, A or B?
Okay.
A. So if the A is under the x, then which one is it gonna be?
That makes sense.
The x-axis. Does that make sense?
So A is always bigger.
But I thought,
Right?
I thought technically a hyperbola was like just a double parabola.
Double parabola.
So why are we comparing it to an ellipse?
Because an ellipse, and by the way, so a circle is a half of a circle. This is a half of a circle.
Uh-huh.
A parabola is a half of a circle, essentially. And an ellipse is taking both of these and just taking your ellipse and splitting. So like,
It's
that was
still
why I
not.
drew this. This was not a circle, it was actually an ellipse.
So
But think about it, if it was an ellipse, what's another way to draw that if it's subtraction? So it would just take it from the middle and go like this, and go like this.
So it's almost like
It's like just
the
taking
sine
these.
and the cosine waves that we did.
Yeah, yeah, it'd be like that. A little bit, like the concept of it being switching.
That's just yeah.
So like this and this,
Mm-hmm.
this is being plusing them, this is subtracting them,
Okay.
okay? Is everybody following that part?
Yeah.
That's the key, because if you understand that, then this is, it's fairly simple. It honestly will be fairly simple. If you don't understand, if you don't see the visual part of it, and this goes back to what Lauren was saying at the beginning of class, thank you for giving this to me, that it's not just about memorizing the point, right, and then plug and chug, it's about understanding why it looks that way. And so, like when we read the Bible, it's not just reading the Bible and memorizing it, it's understanding why God said, hey, you know, the concept of why you should do X, Y, and Z, okay? So I'm preaching on Sunday night, March 1st. You guys should come. It's going to be a great message. I'm excited about it. I won't tell you now. I won't spoil it. But it's going to be a good message. I'm excited about it. All right.
Oh, wait.
So
yeah.
Exodus chapter 18. All right. So I'm stoked. So I won't spoil any of it for
What's
you.
that, next week?
It's not
Can't
this
tell if you're
weekend.
being for real or not.
Hey, I'm preaching on Sunday night. You need to come. It'll be good.
I will let
You don't
I don't
have
know,
to come.
usually
You don't
it's
have
gonna
to
be
come.
so
I'll
good.
watch
I'm
it
not gonna
live.
spoil for you, but it's gonna be so good. And I can't tell.
I'm trying to build up the anticipation. It's not gonna be that good.
I'll come. Okay, I'll come. I'll be there.
In my mind, it's really good. All right.
That's why you set your standard.
I set my
your
standard at
bar
a certain
low.
level, and then
So everything
all
starts.
right. So
Wow.
So-
Okay.
so your foci, and here's what you do. So just so you understand here, when you're doing your focuses, when you find your focuses, whether it's because remember, if you're finding the focus of when it's reversed, you put you're doing h minus plus p and the k, right? Remember this? So here, when you're trying to find your focuses, what you're actually going to do, your equations are going to be, if you look at your book, you'll see them, but they're going to be h minus c, comma k, and the second foci is going to be h plus c, comma k. Okay, so if it's going to be over the x-axis, then it's going to be, you're going to add to it, subtract to it to get your 2 points on either end. We'll go over
Isn't that
this.
just kind of common sense?
It is common sense.
Wait, what is
Like
this?
I did that without a formula and I just can't
Right.
figure it.
Yeah, you're just gonna add one, it's gonna be one on one side, one on the other.
Because the formula is literally just
C's
adding
the
and
distance there.
subtracting.
It's just, it's a variable.
I'm a bum.
And so it's gonna be the variable from here to here. Like, does that make sense? So from that middle point, what's that distance? That's what we're looking for. We'll go over that.
But it's not in a formula.
Huh?
It's
not-
It's not in the formula, no. And neither was P, A, right? A.
So what does C represent?
It's the distance from those 2 points. The distance between the foci.
Like A represents one.
Alright, so, okay.
Sorry.
The distance, it's the distance. I'm telling you, it's the distance.
Distance.
Okay, it's your distance from the one point to the other point. And
Okay.
that's why you're gonna get, so when we do it, wait till we do a problem. and then
That would be
it'll
more
make way more
yeah.
sense. Okay, so look at example 1. So the first example is x squared over 9 minus y minus 3 squared over 3 over 9 equals 1. Okay, so which way is this going to go?
Well, it's both equal, so.
They're both equal, but x is in the front, so therefore,
Otherwise, let's just go with that.
now, it's also this, everybody look, it's not just that they're equal. The other thing that guarantees it, watch.
The y is technically negative.
Exactly. The y has to be negative. If I have this, if this problem was written this way, minus x squared over 9 plus y minus 3
It would be
squared
y.
over 9 equals 1. What is that really?
Minus X.
Smiley face?
That's minus x. So, which way are you going to graph it?
Y.
Like this. Okay? Because it's over you're going to do it on the y-axis. Okay? Here, it's going to be on the x. So, a quick sketch of it's going to look like this. That's not the answer, but that's what it would look like.
So majority of the time,
Okay.
it's going to be, for like hyperbola, it's going to usually be an x.
It's going to be set up like
just
this.
because the formula is given.
But they may do this. They may do this because they remember they're trying to help us work on our equations and moving stuff. So it might be something to look like this: equals 1 plus y minus 3 squared over 9. So what would I do to graph this equation? I got to pull this over. When I subtract, now I have my equation. Does that make sense? Makes y be the negative, so therefore it's going to be these two.
What if it was x
No,
squared
would it
over
be-
3 minus y
So you kinda get to
minus 3?
choose.
You don't get to choose. You get to choose based on this negative. The
Is it
negative chooses for you. Because negative people always choose for you.
So for
Have you noticed that? You know, we can all try to be really positive, but one negative person can just ruin the rest of us.
That is
Right? It's true. It's a good illustration, right? Right? Okay? I can be very negative, and then the rest feel like I hate life and this kind of thing. So you can be as peppy as you want. So.
Oh,
to make
goodness.
the wave
Yeah.
crest.
Go ahead.
For the, when you pull the positive y minus 3 squared to the other side, in this last problem.
Here.
If you pull to the other
Well, I'm
side.
going to pull this whole section.
Yeah, so
I'm
it'd
going
be
to add it
negative
as some negatives.
minus y minus 3, so wouldn't the negative go into parentheses and make it positive? No.
Because it's taking the whole thing.
It's
taking the whole thing. So, no. Because it does distribute, but you don't have to actually distribute.
Oh my lovely.
So this is actually going to be written like this. That actually is this problem rewritten.
Okay.
This is actually that problem rewritten when you do the math work on it.
So wait, technically, are we just doing two parabolas?
So yes, so essentially you're doing two problems. Let's finish a problem. You guys are asking a lot of little questions, and I know I gave you illustrations because I want you to understand.
Yeah, I
Okay,
know it.
so let's try to finish this, and then we can do another problem, and then you'll understand. Okay, so right now, here's our equation. So if we're going to graph, all right, so what do we have? First off, what is the point? What is the center point? What is the center point?
0, negative 3.
0, 3.
Oh, 0, 3.
Okay, look, your H and your K. So it's going to be 0, 3. Everybody good with that? So that's our center point. This is our HK.
Are those nines? Oh, I understand the distance thing now. Okay.
These are our center points, not nines, right? Now, it says this. What is your A? What is your A? What's A?
3.
Well, A is 3. Doesn't matter if they're equal. B is 3. They're both 3. Everybody agree? Any questions on that? So far, so good. We good with that?
Yeah.
So, how would I, where's my vertex going to be now? Think about it. Where would your vertex be?
So it's going to be over the y. You know what I mean?
And we're going this way.
So it's.
Yes?
It's gonna be at 3, 3.
So we're going to go, good.
Yeah.
Okay? I know that's not right. One there and one there.
Yeah.
Correct?
So that's your C.
Wait,
That's the distance away, right? Okay? How did I get those distances away?
Because you'd used A.
Okay, I'm pulling it away 3 and 3. Okay, because I know I have to have 2.
Wait, why are you pulling?
I'm trying to remember
Okay.
how we did the ellipse.
All right. So, does everybody understand where I got my HK from?
Yes.
Are we good with that? So far, so good. Now, all I did, because remember, this is A squared. So what's A? 3. What's B? They're both equal, yes? You agree? They're both equal. So, now, this distance from here to here, what's it going to be? What is my change?
Okay.
What's my change?
3.
So what's my point?
3.
Negative 3, 3, and this one's going to be?
3, 3.
3, 3.
Those are your 2 vertexes, right?
But why are they on the Y? Like, why did you go in the Y direction instead of going up? in the X
Why didn't I do this?
Yeah.
Because this is negative, so it's going to be on the, it's going to be graphed on the x-axis.
It's whatever number is bigger. In that case, it's a
Not
negative
whatever
one.
number's bigger, it's whatever number is not negative.
So I have a quick question. For this and for an ellipse, to determine where it's going to stretch out either with the x or the y, is it best to look at the a compared to the b or the negative compared to the positive? Like if we're subtracting or adding.
In a hyperbola, you look at the negative.
Okay, so for an ellipse, what are you doing? A and a b?
A and B.
It's
Bigger or
just
smaller,
safer
yep.
to do it that way.
So it's bigger or smaller, it's being stretched that way. So this would actually be more of a circle if it had a plus in the middle. Does that make sense? Because it has the
So do
same.
we care about B?
Do we care about B?
Like, does it really matter?
Not really, no.
Wait, so B doesn't.
No, so
B doesn't really matter that much.
then it's just pointing in direction out.
Right.
Well, do a and b really
So-
matter?
Yeah.
A does matter because that's how you get this distance. So then from here,
But do you have to decipher it? Because the way that I'm thinking to do it in my brain is
that's
you
your
just-
graph.
You just see that the y is negative, so then it's obviously on the x-axis. So then you just look at the one with the x.
Right.
So does that work too?
Yeah,
I don't have to like
yeah.
figure out which one's I.
No, yeah, the one
Okay.
that's, yeah, so
Well,
we'll go over that.
You're still gonna have to know the x and
Yeah.
y for like
Yeah.
the middle.
Okay? Now, the only thing that they want you to do, why you need, what you would need B for or whatever, what is the asymptotes for this? How would you be able to draw asymptotes?
Look at this. 3 above 3 to the side.
Right?
So it is like a sine and a
Okay.
cosine wave.
So that's not really
Okay.
helpful.
So you have your asymptotes that go through there. Alright? And they just go through, you would draw them through, essentially go through, draw them down. That's how you're gonna find them. And you're gonna have to solve, some of those are gonna be harder than others, okay? That one's an easy one, other ones are harder. Okay? Alright?
So how does
So-
this have to be?
Excuse me?
What does that have to do with B?
Well, just, it's still dealing with the 3 and the negative 3.
So, Mr. Comstock, what happens when they're both positive?
What do you mean?
Like, you graph them on the,
If that's positive,
Then
if
ellipse,
it's like a
right?
plus.
if this is a plus, then it's an ellipse.
Oh,
Then you would graph it like an ellipse. So if that was written, what would you graph?
Just graph the middle part for this area.
So what's my middle? My middle is 0, 3, right? And I would go 3 this way, 3 this way, 3 this way, 3 this way, and there you go. And I'm done. That's why that's why you have to be
So
careful.
essentially, you can graph an ellipse and do everything
So
else.
so for SAT, so just so you know, if you're taking an SAT, this is SAT. When you see an equation that looks like this, it can only be 2 options. It's going to be an ellipse or an hyperbola. How do you know the difference?
there's a minus.
Minus or plus?
But you almost could do that without even.
Exactly. Most of the time on this SAT, you can get the answer right without even having to solve 90% of the problems. I'm just telling you because you can if you know this information, and that goes back to not just memorizing information, being able to understand the information. And that was why I did this for you. Does that make sense? Because you may not put this together on your own, and I don't blame you. I took me years to figure out that these two kind of go together. Like, I didn't realize that. No one told me that. I wish I would have, but that's how you would do it. All right. So let's do another problem. Okay. Let's try another one. I think people are kind of grasping the concepts. You're grasping the concept. All right. We'll do another one. That's what it looks like. Let's do the next one. I'm more worried about just getting as many problems in while we're here than getting. And then Monday we'll review and give you, like, we won't have to do as long teaching it because we've already taught some of it. Does that make sense? All right, number one, the problem is 9x squared minus 4y squared plus 18x plus 8y equals 31, okay? So,
Rearrange it.
let's go ahead and solve it. How do we do it? What do we do?
Pull the
Which
9
number are
out,
we
so
doing
that's
again?
x
So-
squared plus 2x.
This is example number 2.
Oh.
For the hyperbola, find the a and the b, the center and the foci, and so on, okay?
Pull out the 9, so that would be x squared plus 2x.
All right, so let's go ahead and separate it. It's gonna be 9x squared, and we're gonna do 2 steps at once,
Plus
Okay.
2x.
plus 2x blank,
equals-
right?
Yeah, pull out the -4.
And then over here, it's gonna be -4
Y, and then
y squared, which we're doing this way.
subtracting 2.
So y squared
Minus 8.
2.
minus 8,
No.
minus 2y, sorry, 2y,
Correct.
blank equals 31. Yep,
Mhm.
is everybody good? Does
Correct.
everybody see what we did? Because I know we skipped a step, okay? That's okay, and that's okay. You don't have.
There
I mean,
could be
honestly,
everything.
if you're not in Algebra 1, you shouldn't have to do that. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
In Algebra 1, you should be showing that step. In Algebra 3, you should be able to, at some point, be able to skip that step. Okay? I just sometimes don't do that. Sometimes I do it, and then I forget, and you guys don't know why I did what I did.
9.
So now what? What happens next?
9x
We just gotta complete the
plus
square, right?
Yes.
9 times x plus 1.
So this is gonna be 1.
X
Yes.
plus 1 squared.
So it's gonna be
9.
On the other
X
side,
plus
so
we
it's
have
9 plus 9,
We have to add 9 and add 9.
right?
9.
So we add 9 here, we add 9 there. What about this one?
Add 9 and 9.
What is this one?
Plus 1.
Well, plus 1, then add
Plus
9.
That one's plus 1 too?
So you said
Subtract
subtract
4.
4.
Oh, why did I say 9?
I don't know why you said that.
I don't know.
9 and then x plus 1x. Can we
You're
finish
right. So let's
X
finish.
plus
Wait,
1
So watch.
it?
Okay,
9
guys.
X plus 1 squared.
X plus 1 squared
And
Minus
then
minus
negative
4,
4
x
X
minus
minus
1
1
squared
Yeah.
equals
Y minus
36.
y minus 1.
It's
Y
y
minus
minus
1.
1 squared.
I mean, x's are
Wow.
close.
How dare you?
No.
Alright, so now you
Okay, now what?
Less
36.
No.
Divide by
So
36.
now I divide by 36.
Yes. Boom.
We love that. Perfect. Wow.
So when we do that, we're left with 1 over here, and that's going to leave us
Let's
what?
reduce that
9.
first, yeah.
Wait.
Y minus 1 over squared over 9, right?
Yes.
Minus x plus 1
squared
And then over 4.
Over 4.
over 4. Good.
And then
So,
that's essentially 2 and 3.
Yes.
so we're good, right?
So
Any questions? So now, which way would this be graphed if you were graphing it?
see this is where it comes to my question of would
Huh?
it
It's over the
There's
x.
no question,
It's negative. It has to be over the
Minus,
x.
so
So it has to
maybe
be
it is 4.
It will be graphed
Right?
on the
Well,
Because it
x
doesn't-
axis.
Because your a and b don't matter because it's negative, right?
But A is
right?
it's
8.
essentially 4 is bigger than negative 9.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is the negative
Remember,
divided?
the negative matters here to help us determine ellipses.
Mm.
Did I say negative?
Yeah.
Non-negative.
Yes.
The number matters. I meant to say number. The numbers matter
A and
here.
B for ellipse.
Whether they're bigger or smaller determines which way it elongates. On this one, it's going to be the other way. Does that make sense?
So
Okay.
the
So-
x is negative 1 1.
So what's my center?
Negative 1
Negative 1.
Negative 1, 1. Okay, so our center is negative 1, 1. So that's good. what would our vertexes be? Like, what would they have to be moved?
Well, if it's over the
One,
X.
one.
2 and 3.
it
Okay,
has
2 and
to
3?
be
2 and 3.
So, but we're talking about our hyperbola, it's gonna be graphed like this.
So it'd really only be 2 because
Yeah.
you're only paying
Right, so it's
attention
gonna be
to the
-1
One.
and 1. So here, from here,
So you go over 2,
Go over 2, so
you
negative
go over 2 again on the X,
Over
yes.
and 1.
so over here,
Uh-huh.
And 1.
and over here,
One.
over here, sorry. Yep, sorry. Okay, so it looks like that, right? So we're good so far, yep. And that's what it's gonna look like, something to that.
Oh goodness.
I hit my elbow on the TV. Not that I'm a perfect drawer anyway, but I'm gonna blame the TV on that one. Alright, but that, it's gonna look something to that effect. Now, the question, the book takes it one step further. Someone said, where do you get C from? Okay, where did you get C from? Now think about this, hold on.
I don't know what a C is. Yeah, what's the
So
definition
C,
of
remember C, right? So I mean fire foci. So what would C be? How would you solve for C? We know, and I said to you it was distance or Pythagorean theorem, right?
Yes.
So distance. A squared plus B squared equals
C squared.
A squared plus B squared.
C?
So that's when the B comes in handy. Does that make
So
sense?
C is 1.
Is that fair?
Mhm.
So what's my answer going to be? If I was solving that Pythagorean theorem, C squared equals A squared plus B squared, what would I get?
4 squared.
4 squared plus 9 squared, right?
Or
Which is
no.
13.
No, would it
Okay,
be?
so just trust me, your Pythagorean theorem, is
technically
this.
It's 2 squared plus 3 squared.
so it's gonna be 2 squared, which is what this is, 4, plus 9
Plus 9.
equals C squared. So, C squared equals 13, C equals the square root of 13. Can't be reduced, right?
Which is like 3 points.
So what are my foci? So what are the foci of my equation?
Square root of 13.
You subtract and then you
So
add.
you can, remember right here, so what are they?
So it is an ellipse and it's also a parabola. It's the inverse of an ellipse, which is a type of parabola.
I think. I don't know.
It makes more
I'm-
sense when it's like
Yeah,
in an umbrella form.
right, so it's an umbrella.
-1 plus
So
the
what we
square
get
root-
is -1
plus the square root of 13.
plus the square root of 13, right?
Yes.
So minus square root of 13,
And plus.
comma 1, right? And then -1
Plus.
plus the square root of 13,
Comma
1. So those are my two foci.
Yeah.
Those are my two foci. Those are the two foci based on the fact that A
And based on the vertex.
on this vertex. Does that make sense?
Of the.
And so that's what you're solving for.
Yes.
Okay.
How did you
So
get
you
negative? How did you get
like that,
negative 1?
Correct.
That's X.
Excuse me?
How did you get negative 1?
That's H.
What do you,
Because it's our X.
For that,
The
in the
original.
one.
what's our vertex?
What's the vertex of X?
Our vertex is
Oh,
-1. So I have to add 13 and subtract 13.
Yeah, if we're working
Square
on the
root,
foci.
yeah.
Okay, everybody follow that?
There's no
Okay, so-
textures.
But there is the asymptote.
Correct. Alright, so we'll finish up and we'll move in. We're basically done. Now we'll just do some problems on Monday and then we'll release you to solving them, alright? No homework.
I'm making
Oh.
it,
Homework is for Monday?
Mr. Thompson,
Yes.
I'm making a special request that we cannot have our class next Wednesday.
No, no. Okay.
Because we have a ton of stuff.
No,
to
I'm
do.
kidding.
Do we have some stuff left in?
Don't kid anymore, Noah.
Maybe
Just
not for you. So you have, you're in a different English class, that's when our book summaries do, that's when our history
One,
presentation do.
your homework for Monday is
No,
gonna be
well, I don't have
3:05,
anything to do for that.
1 to 21 odd.